Big ACC matchup this weekend as the Clemson Tigers go into Lane Stadium and take on Virginia Tech. Clemson right now, every weekend, every Saturday is an elimination game. It's for the end of their season. If they want any postseason hope whatsoever, whether that be a conference championship game or a playoff berth, every single game from now on is an elimination game. And they have a hard schedule. They play Virginia Tech this weekend, then they got Pitt, and then they have the Citadel, and then South Carolina. They have to go 4-0 to have any hope to get into the playoff and to compete for the ACC championship game. I think even if they win all four of these games, they are still dependent upon Miami and SMU to lose games, because if both of those teams win out, Clemson's just out of the ACC championship, and by that regard, they are likely out of the college football playoff. I don't think with a 10-2 resume that they're going to get in if they're not the ACC champion. So they have to do everything that they can on their end, and also hope for SMU or Miami to take some losses along the way for the rest of the season. But let's look at this game. Clemson went into their last game against Louisville as 10-point favorites, and with everything, the wind at their back, they were smooth sailing after the Georgia game, and they just shit the bed. They looked terrible. They looked like they didn't even belong in the same field as Louisville, which is embarrassing. They came off a bye week and didn't get anything done offensively. Their defense looked pretty average, and Louisville just took it to them. And honestly, the score wasn't even really indicative of how that looked. Like, Clemson was never in the game. They never really had a shot. And now they have a chance to try to flip this narrative again of they had just played a bunch of crap teams and then dominated them. But once they played someone with a pulse, they got embarrassed. Well, guess what? Virginia Tech has a pulse. They're a solid team. Now, Tootin and Drones are still questionable for the game. If they play, this is a very serious game, and I'd expect it to be either a pretty close game, because those two dudes, Drones and Tootin, are huge playmakers, and they are very big difference makers for this Virginia Tech team. Virginia Tech kind of struggled against Syracuse last week, and without those two. Now, the good thing is they were kind of able to get the job done on the ground. I think they had around like 170 yards rushing without Tootin and without Drones. But just imagine if those two were in. Man, I think they win that game, easily last weekend if those two were in. They are very big difference makers for this Virginia Tech team. So if they play, this is going to be a very tight game, because I think both the teams are pretty well matched. But if not, man, Clemson really has to get the job done. So I expect this to be a pretty tight game. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to mean a lot for both teams. Brent Pry really needs this win. Like, he's had a lot of games not gone his way this year, which have stacked up to a bunch of L's in a loss column. And some of it is his fault. Some of it is his team just not finishing out. So a lot on the line for both Clemson and for Virginia Tech right here. The line is about 6.5. I think I'm not going to bet this, because both of the two biggest playmakers for Virginia Tech are still questionable at this time. So I'm going to say if they are in, I would take Virginia Tech plus the points. If not, I would probably lean Clemson, but I'm not going to bet this either way. Follow Big Body Ball CFB on all socials.